Okay, we are continuing the September 2023 edition of Motortrend. Lambo's greatest supercar? Lamborghini Huracan Sturato. Perhaps nothing screws with your mind more than whipping a supercar around the bend of a racetrack and aiming not for the next apex, but at the dirt track running perpendicular to the course and leading off into the infield. One moment you're listening for the telltale signs of rubber breaking away from the asphalt, tires at the limit of adhesion. The next, there is no such sound, only the V10 singing behind you as you sling sideways into a sandy curve. Welcome to the Lamborghini Huracan Sturato, perhaps the most brain-bending supercar ever built. Birthed over dinner and no doubt some drinks. At the tail end of Urus development, the Sturato is what happens when supercar engineers are allowed to stop chasing numbers and given freedom to do something different. A sort of 21st century reinterpretation of a Group B rally car, the Sturato marries the littlest Lambo's inherent on-road goodness with off-road hardware designed to help explore dirt trails and desert washes at serious speed. The key to this is unsurprisingly found lurking behind and beneath the 2023 Lamborghini Huracan Sturatos engorged and textured fender arches. Ride height is bumped up by 1.7 inches over the 2020 Motortrend Best Driver's Car winning Huracan Evo, upon which it's based, to 6.4 inches. The car's Magnum Ride dampers are also reworked for more wheel travel and to handle the off-roader's potentially different loads. For example, softening up the nose under heavy braking in the Sturato's unique rally drive mode allows quicker turning. A unique set of Bridgestone Dealer all-terrain AT002 run-flat tires on downsize 19-inch wheels, the smallest size that will clear the Huracan's brake, are designed to provide high-speed grip in dirt, gravel, and mud while not entirely sacrificing the Lamborghini's on-road performance. Rounding out the package is a mid-mounted 5.2-liter V10 detuned to 602 horsepower from 630 because Lamborghini had to seal off the Huracan's side-mounted air intakes to avoid dirt and dust ingestion, replacing them with a single roof-mounted scoop. Torque remains flat at 413 pound-feet, with power routed through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox into an all-wheel drive system backed up by a mechanical rear limited slip differential. Full-length aluminum underbody, skid plates, rally lights, roof rails, and some extra body cladding complete the look. Minor nips and tucks to the bumpers and rockers give the Huracan Sturato approach, breakover, and departure angles of 10.4, 14.7, and 26.5 degrees respectively. On paper, this combo seems like a cynical attempt to milk some extra life out of the Huracan as Lamborghini readies its replacement. In practice, it just might be among the most lighthearted and fun Lambos ever built. To prove it, Lamborghini invited us to Chuckwalla Raceway, located smack dab in the middle of California's Coachella Valley. The 17-turn course stretches for roughly 2.5 miles, twisting through desert scrub and hills with a distinctive Nordschleife-like 10-degree bowl on its back half. At least that's normally how it goes. But instead of diving for the late left-hand hairpin in turns 4 and 5, Lamborghini sent us straight onto the infield, where a 1.25-mile dirt course that largely mimicked the twists and turns of the proper circuit awaited us. Each lap would be a rallycross-style 50-50 mix of asphalt and sand. Excellent. Exiting pit lane onto the first straight, I toggled the Sturato into sport mode, planted the throttle, grabbed second gear with the meaty column-mounted carbon fiber shift paddle, and listened to the V10 song fight with my poor passenger's voice as he shouted instructions to me in Italian accented English. I tried to tune it out, attempting to suss out the tires and brakes limits as the G-load pinned us into our seats for the first corners. "Don't brake, you're going too slow," he said as we approached the fourth corner. "Aim for the cone, rally mode, off the track, second gear, go!" I thumbed the Sturato into rally, downshifted into second, and braced for impact as we left the track into a sweeping left-hander in soft sand. There was none. Instead, the Huracan transitioned seamlessly from pavement to grains as I attempted to mentally switch gears from staying planted on my on-road line to sliding sideways off it. Before I knew it, we were back on pavement, rounding the bowl, lining up for the next lap. Then it all clicked. Although it's no pre-running pickup, the Huracan Sturato revealed a hint of such greatness as we navigated the infield section of the course in rally mode. The Sturato is definitely chuckable off-road, and it's more playful than any Huracan that's come before. Give it a little Scandinavian flick entering a corner as you start feeding in throttle and counter steer, and the Sturato's all-wheel drive system, with help from the undetectable stability control, facilitates effortless drifts, keeping the nose pointed at an apex and ultimately toward the next straight. This Huracan also likes being steered by the accelerator, downshift, and come off the gas as you approach a sandy downhill sweeper, for instance, and you can start your turn with throttle input, maintaining your slip angle simply by flexing your right foot as a responsive V10 zings behind you. Even with the relatively minor changes Lamborghini made to the suspension, it did a fantastic job of keeping the grippy Bridgestones in contact with the rutted terrain and making impacts one-and-done affairs. Despite its off-road cred, the Huracan Sturato didn't give up much on the track's paved portion either. On straightaways, your brain is tricked into driving it hard like any other supercar, though the first time you attempt to brake late from triple-digit speeds You are surprised by the feel of the all-terrain squirming underneath you. Similarly, despite the quick communicative steering, the Serato doesn't corner in the same neutral way as other Huracans. It instead reminds you a bit of the old Ford RS200 Evo, leaning subtly onto the outside tires as you curve into the corner. Though the Lamborghini is capable of exploding out of bends in ways Group B cars like the Ford never were. Outside the racetrack's confines, the Huracan Serato makes even more sense than the standard car, already among the most comfortable supercars to live with. Extra cushion from the tire sidewall and the added ride height means you don't have to constantly dodge potholes and dips in the road, so you can focus instead on enjoying the drive. Visibility, never a Lamborghini strong suit, is improved slightly by the additional ride height, and cabin noise levels remain impressively quiet, even with a touch more noise from the wind whipping around the auxiliary lights and roof rails and from the tires. Complaining about noise in a Lamborghini is a bit silly, however. Simply turn up the stereo or mat the gas, and instead enjoy the V10's exotic yowl as it spins north at 4,000 RPM. Ultimately, what's clearest about the Huracan Serato is that the Italian automaker's engineers were allowed for a moment to forget about straight-up performance and instead focus on goofy fun. Not a single Lamborghini engineer, or indeed a person that's driven the Serato, can talk about it without breaking into a smile. It's silly, slightly stupid, and sort of pointlessly perfect. Lamborghini's engineering team has fallen so in love with the car, limited to 1,499 examples worldwide, that it's taken to bringing one along to every single development drive it does as a new baseline for driving pleasure. Couple that with the Serato's natural underlying capability, and you have a car bound to go down as one of Lamborghini's great. The base price is $278,972, 0 to 60 in an estimated 3.3 seconds, and getting 13, 18, 15 miles per gallon estimated for an EPA range of about 316 miles. If you know, you know. The Jolpa is a forgotten Lamborghini well worth remembering. I'm heading for the hills near Modena, Italy, in a screaming yellow Lamborghini Jolpa, chassis number 419, the final one built and bearing Ferruccio Lamborghini's fading signature on his blue leather dash. I'm squirming around to get comfortable. Lambos are not built for short people, and the tiny offset pedal box means I have to sit diagonally. When a silver Volvo SUV blows past me and the maroon Lambo Urus I'm following pass by a Volvo, I say to Massimo Delbo, automotive historian and my co-pilot for the day, I have an excuse, but those guys in the Urus should be ashamed. Delbo picks up on his walkie-talkie and repeats my snark in Italian to the occupants of the super SUV. A static, cracked reply comes back, and as Delbo translates it, if he wants a roller coaster ride, I'll give him one. The Urus takes off with a great puff of exhaust. I smile at Delbo. He grins at me, and I drop the Jolpa down to second gear to give chase. Paging through various Lamborghini books, you won't find much about the Jolpa. Regarded as antepasti to the Countach's Secondi, it's usually lumped in with less loved Lambos like the Jarma and the Silhouette, if it's mentioned at all. We're guilty too. Motortrend hasn't written about the Jolpa since late 1982. In honor of Lamborghini's 60th anniversary, I want to right this wrong. The company invited MT to its St. Agata Bolognesi headquarters to drive a flotilla of classic Lambos and spend some one-on-one time with the Jolpa. I quickly discover an intriguing car with a bejewelingly personality far different from the bigger, better-known Lamborghinis. Delbo describes the Jolpa simply enigmatically. If you know, you know. I wind the 3.5-liter V8 to its 7,000 RPM horsepower peak, then jam down the heavy clutch and snap the gated shifter into third. The scream from the engine is an 85 decibel mashup of Countach V12 and American V8. Not an old muscle car engine, but one of those high-revving flat plane jobs. The Jolpa is happiest above 4,000 RPM, and I endeavor to keep it there. I'm gaining on the Urus, and baby, we are hauling the mail. How fast? No idea, as the Jolpa Speedo doesn't register higher than 40 kph. Which I hope will make an acceptable excuse for the carabinieri, if need be. The Urus whips past the offending Volvo, and I follow. Suddenly, I see a patch of pot-marked pavement ahead, and I wince in anticipation of the impact, but it never comes. Instead, we soar over the bumps like a stallion leaping over a brook. The Lamborghini Jolpa is beginning to reveal its secrets. The Jolpa has its roots in the Urraco, Lamborghini's response to the Porsche 911 and Ferrari Dino. Company founder Ferruccio Lamborghini wanted a lower-cost car, build sales volume, and provide protection against economic downturn, and engineer Paolo Stanzini created a trim, mid-engine 2+2 with a 2.5-liter V8. The P250 Urraco made its debut at the 1970 Turin Auto Show to an enthusiastic response. But as anyone familiar with Lamborghini history knows, the early 70s were tough times. Urraco development stretched to 2 years, and many buyers lost patience and canceled their orders. Those who did take delivery, just 35 in 1972, found the Urracos plagued by quality and design defects. The factory spent heavily on 1,000 car per year capacity, but sales never came close. By the time the greatly improved P300 Urraco appeared in 1974, Fruscio had cut ties with his own company. The Urraco never lived up to its potential, selling just 791 examples, including 66 of the ill-conceived P200s with its puny 2-liter V8 size to dodge Italian tax laws. In 1976, Lamborghini reworked the Urraco into the two-seat target top silhouette. It inherited the P300's excellent handling, but also its awkward interior and tragic build quality. Lamborghini sold just 52. Both cars got the axe in 1979, victims of new European safety standards as much as their own failings. In 1980, Lamborghini was purchased by brothers Jean-Claude and Patrick Miraran, who brought in engineer Giulio Alfieri from Maserati and asked him to see what could be made of the baby Lambo. Starting with the silhouette, he enlarged the engine, refined the suspension, revised the interior, and doused the body in Countach flair. The Jalpa made its debut in 1982, and as the cliche says, the third time was a charm. Several contemporary reviews, including ours, cited the Jalpa's heavy controls, and I now see what they meant. Clutch, brake, steering, and even the accelerator require authoritative effect, and the steering doesn't tighten up at speed as does the Mira and Countach. A flaw? No, I decide. As I head into the curvy hills and crank my speed, my muscles tense up, and the Jalpa's controls take on a Goldilocks level of just rightness. Fast driving is best done with relaxed limbs and a light touch, which is easier said than done, especially with adrenaline coursing through my body like the gasoline flowing into the Jalpa's hungry carburetors. There are countless occasions bombing through the curves when something surprises me, and I give the brake a clumsy stomp instead of a gentle caress. The Jalpa takes such missteps in stride. For this car, a stomp is a caress. Even with muscles tightened and synapses snapping, I can modulate the heavy controls with micron accuracy. I've always imagined classic Lamborghinis piloted by steely-eyed Superman, but I realize now that the Lambo's engineers designed the Jalpa for mortals. They knew what the excitement they were delivering would do to our minds and bodies, and they tuned the Jalpa to work best in that tense environment. Both the Jalpa and Delbo egg me on. Get on the gas earlier, out of the turns, he says. Trust the car. The Jalpa delivers the message in its own way. At light throttle, or if Ferruccio forbid I lift off entirely, the exhaust pops and crackles impatiently, not merely on occasional poof, but on a constant eardrum bursting fusillade. The Jalpa is both temptress and scold. If you're not going to put that gasoline to proper use, the car will waste it out of the exhaust. Driving faster is the only way to quiet the admonishments. I summon up what little courage I possess and give the Lamborghini what it wants. Now we're in the really tight curves and I'm struggling with the Jalpa's steering. It's not the heft, but the ratio. The wheel goes 4 turns lock to lock. Forget 9 and 3. I can't reposition my hands quickly enough. I asked Dilbo for advice on the steering, and his answer is the most Italian thing I will hear all day. Don't use it. We swap seats, and he demonstrates. Hard on the brakes, shuffle steer the turn in as quickly as you can, then nail the throttle early and adjust your line with engine power. Forget finesse. The Jalpa likes it rough. The Jalpa finally got the baby Lambo formula right, but the timing was wrong. By the early 80s, America was pulling out of the recession, Wall Street was churning out carbon copy millionaires, and Countach started pouring into the country, first as gray market imports and then officially from Lamborghini. Ferrari's entry-level 328 was doing well, but the Jalpa, though better in most ways, had no such luck. As far as the Nouveau rich were concerned, there was only one Lamborghini worth considering. Was their belief correct? The Jalpa is arguably the better sports car, a ballerina, compared to the brutish Countach. It's small and lithe, a challenge to handle, but willing to work with any driver with a mediocre of competence. For all its strikes and scoops, though the Jalpa is not showy and in the over-the-top 1980s slowly muttered. The Countach outsold the Jalpa 4-1, and when new owner Chrysler axed the latter in '88, it didn't bother with a replacement. The Jalpa, but for its epic cameo in Sylvester Stallone's ride in Rocky IV, became one of the forgotten Lamborghinis. We hope to love the Jalpa's St. Agata birthplace, and I watched reluctantly as it's eased back into the garage and shut down. The car is still and quiet, like the pictures and books that, until now, compromised the entirety of my experience with this enchanting Lamborghini. How many will observe this museum piece in repose and never understand what it really is? Given the choice between a Countach and a Jalpa, a guy could dream, right? I know which one I would pick. A week ago my answer would have been different, but now I know, and hopefully you do too. Bye.